Hi, my name is Jeremy Brunansky, and you're about to watch a brand new episode of Brunansky's Vlog. This is a weekly show that drops every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. In this show, we cover movie news, movie reviews, and a little bit more. If this is your first time with us, consider clicking that subscribe button. For everybody who's returning, thank you so much. And as always, if you enjoy any portion of this show, give me that thumbs up button. Let's go ahead and cut now to this week's episode. Good morning! It's Monday morning, which means it's time for another episode of Brunansky's Vlog. This is episode 17. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the content we have to deliver here, because every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we drop a brand new episode that covers movie news, movie reviews, and a little bit more. If you're returning, thank you so much, and as always, if you enjoy any portion of this episode, please do click that thumbs up. Also this week, we got a special segment towards the end where I actually break down my thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe top films from number 17 all the way to number 1. So make sure you stick around for that. Also, don't forget we got the Certified Rad segment is back. I know we did miss it last week, but we are back this week and we're good to go. Finally, I do get a little bit excited about two of the news stories this week, so make sure that you check those out. It comes towards the end of the news segment, so from start to finish, this episode is pretty action-packed, pretty energetic, and we are ready to get going. All right, I don't want to waste any more time on this introduction. This is episode 17. You're watching Brunansky's Vlog. Let's cut to the news. In the news, Disney announced the complete cast list for the upcoming live-action Lion King movie via their Twitter page. The cast includes Donald Glover, Beyoncé, James Earl Jones, Seth Rogen, John Oliver, and more. So there really was only one name that we were waiting on because most of this cast had been announced. We'd known who was going to play what, but we had Nala's character who we hadn't heard about, and it officially confirmed that it is going to be Beyoncé. Disney announced it on their Twitter, so if you're following Twitter, you've already seen this news. And if you did see it already, go ahead and throw in your comments below what you thought when you saw the news break about that final piece of the puzzle being added. Overall, this is a really good voice cast. I mean, there's a lot of talent in this voice cast. Outside of the names I already mentioned, we have people like John Connie, who you guys will remember from Captain America Civil War. He plays Black Panther's father. Before the bomb goes off, he's the reason that the Black Panther suits up, is his death from the bombing. So you guys are already familiar with the actor. You probably just didn't realize that was his name. And then Keegan-Michael Key from Key and Peele. And also he had that little short run that he did in Parks and Rec where he was Donna's boyfriend, then, eventually husband. I mean, there's so much talent in this voice cast that I think it's set up for success outside of the fact that it's Disney and they already knocked it out of the park with Jungle Book. Now they're stepping back to do the more iconic story, which is Lion King. Overall, though, my excitement for this movie isn't that high unless I see something that makes me go, okay, so that's what they're doing different from the Jungle Book. All the technology and everything like that, yes, it will be better because we've had time to, not we, but Jon Favreau and team have had time to work this technology over and just kind of build out what they've already done with the Jungle Book. So yes, the technology will be better for the Lion King. I'm not like high-fiving everybody about this news. Like, I think it's really cool that we've got this tremendous voice cast. However, I've already seen the technology at work. I loved the Jungle Book. I think it's a fantastic film, and the fact that it was all shot in a soundstage in LA and not the jungle is incredible because that movie looks like it was shot on location in a jungle. And I've seen it once already. So unless something different happens with The Lion King, I'll be excited that it's another movie that is happening with Disney and everything else, but I can't really say like I'm uber pumped. So I'm curious to see what is going to be different about The Lion King that sets itself apart from the Jungle Book. Mark Strong is set to play Dr. Savannah, the lead villain in the SHAZAM movie. So Mark Strong, there was a lot of jokes going around online about the fact that he did that abysmal Green Lantern film back, a while ago with Ryan Reynolds as Sinestro. So we get it, right? But he's also done movies like Kick-Ass. He did movies like Sherlock Holmes, right, with Robert Downey Jr. He was in The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch. He was also in both of the Kingsman movies. So we're not going to hold all of the terrible and awfulness that was the Green Lantern against him for his performance. The movie itself, just bad. Taika Waititi was in that. He gave us Thor Ragnarok. He's given us, What We Do in the Shadows. He also helped with Flight of the Conchords. So just because you have one misstep, we're not going to throw you under the bus for all of it, right? You come out, you do a great job, and we're looking forward to your next performance, whatever that may be. So with Mark Strong coming out to play this villainous doctor, I had no idea who this guy was, because all I knew about Shazam was that he's a kid that turns into a superhero, right? He says Shazam, boom, he's like a superhero, like Superman, and he fights Black Adam. So I had to do some research. I had to look into this to find out who is this doctor character. And apparently he's right up there with Black Adam. And so I sat back and I went, well, why would they want to use this guy first when they've already announced we're going to have a Black Adam movie with The Rock? So you got to tie these in eventually. So how does this all work? So this makes sense now that I've done the reading research on this, right? To get the backstory on how these things can all connect together. I get it now. So if they're going, and this is an if, we don't know anything about the story. This is just a big speculative if. So if they're going this route to have like the doctor like have some type of trauma where he needs the Shazam magic, and that's why he's fighting Shazam, is to get the magic to heal himself, but somehow finds out that there's another way, and it's through this Black Adam tomb, and then he resurrects the Black Adam, problem solved. Black Adam comes to life in the modern time. He has no idea what's going on. He views himself a god over all of these human creatures that are addicted to cell phones, that are addicted to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And he's like, nope, I'm going to be the ruler and the king over all of these people. And then him and Shazam go at it. Makes perfect sense to me. That's probably not what's going to happen, but it makes perfect sense to me after I did the research. Mark Strong, I think, can really pull this off. He is really good at playing intelligent characters. If the character is a hero or a villain, it doesn't matter. Mark Strong has the background, and he's got the look, and he's got the emotional intensity to deliver hero or villain intelligently on screen to us so that he's believable. Whether he's, a yellowish monster floating through space with a ring, or, he's fighting Sherlock Holmes. It doesn't matter. Mark can do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing more from the Shazam movie, because as we discussed on a previous episode, I think there's a lot of room to make this a much more lighthearted film, even though it could be dealing with some very dark themes because of what the Doctor might be trying to cure on himself. Sound off below with your thoughts. Jean-Claude Van Damme is set to lead the new film The Bouncer, which is being directed by Julien Leclerc. According to Variety, Van Damme will star as Lucas, a nightclub bouncer in his 50s who gets thrown in jail, loses custody of his daughter, and is then recruited by Interpol to stop a Dutch ringleader operating in Belgium in exchange for the custody of his daughter. The Bouncer begins shooting in January of 2018. I had to double check this news because I didn't believe it was an actual story when I read it, because it sounds absolutely ludicrous. You have a bouncer. He's a bouncer. He's a bouncer. He's a bar bouncer, but Interpol needs him? What? This movie sounds bananas. And when I read this, I was like, this can't be real. It's real, and now we're going to talk about it. I can't wait to see more about this film. This sounds like something that we would see for like $20-30 million, like a Liam Neeson picture, like where he's on, like the new movie where he's on a train, or his Taken films. This sounds like something off the wall, made for cheaper, just a good time. I couldn't believe, when you say Jean-Claude Van Damme is coming back to play a bouncer, my first thought was Roadhouse, because that's everyone's first thought when you hear a movie about a bouncer. But then I was like, okay, and then it's taking place in Europe, and Interpol needs him. I don't get it. Nothing ties together in like any type of reality, unless he's like some special forces like veteran, and then like he's just doing bouncing because that's what he likes to do, and he doesn't need like a high-paying job because of whatever reason. He's just like, yeah, I like to be a bouncer. Okay, but then Interpol needs him? This sounds so ridiculous. I can't wait to see more, because it sounds like Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to do what Jean-Claude Van Damme does best, and that is he movie is going to kick some booty. I can't wait. The story doesn't, this synopsis that I just read does not make sense at all. Doesn't make, why would Interpol need a bouncer? Ludicrous. But it has the potential to be just such a fun, ridiculous, turn your brain off action flick, like similar to something like The Expendables, where you just sit down in the theater, you have a giant bucket of popcorn, and you're just shoveling popcorn in your face as bombs are going off and guns are just shooting everything and explosions, car crashes, people getting punched in the face, thrown off of buildings. It sounds like it could be a crazy good time. I can't wait. I just want to see more from this film. Give me a trailer. I'm ready for the trailer today. Natalie Portman will be casting her vocal talent in the new animated film being produced by Bold Films, entitled Foxy Trotter. The story is about a motorcycle riding rock and roll photographer in the early 1970s trying to capture the perfect rock photo while also trying to save the universe from Gunther, Foxy's arch rival. The film is described as a wild mix of Barbarella meets Sausage Party meets Easy Rider. This week is the week for news that makes no sense. Are you two stories in a row that just make me go, what? I love this story. I can't wait to, it's animated, so you have all the potential in the world to do whatever you want. There's no limitations because it's animated. So you can have the craziest fight scenes, explosions, whatever. It's going to be rock and roll. So you're going to just like have this rock and roll band. Why does a photographer have an arch rival? It makes no sense. And the arch rival of a rock and roll photographer is trying to destroy the universe. This is madness. I can't wait. It's insanity. I am so excited. These last two stories, I was like, these can't be real. These are real. I am excited. So I don't know what more from this story is going to unfold that will make me more excited for this. If the first trailer drops and the animation looks kind of then okay. Then I'll be a little bit bummed. But in general, this story, just like the Jean-Claude Van Damme story we just talked about, sounds so over the top and ridiculous. I cannot wait. These films, they just sound like a fun time at the movies. Turn your brain off, get ready for some action, and have a ball. Plus, we get Natalie Portman. Now, she's going to be doing vocal talent for the best friend of Foxy, which is fine. That's great. I just want more from this. Show me that first trailer. I'm ready for it right now. If you can get me the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie and this movie trailer on the same day, that's an early Christmas present for this guy. So now you take Barbarella, Sausage Party, and Easy Rider, you throw the 1970s rock and roll vibe to it, and you make it animated. This has all of the possibility to either be tremendously wonderful or horrifically stupid. I don't really see people coming out of the theater going, I really saw what they were going for. I just don't think they achieved it. I think people are gonna walk out of the theater and be like, wow, that was the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen. Or, that movie made no sense, but it was amazing. That's the type of reactions I think this movie is going to produce. I think people are either going to love it or they're going to be like, why did I just waste my time in that theater? Either way, I just want to see the first trailer. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Honorable mentions this week. Red Sonja is being made into a feature film by Millennium Media. John Hamm is set to star in the supernatural thriller Off Season. Eloise Mumford is joining Billy Crystal and Ben Schwartz in the new comedy We Are Unsatisfied. Anna Kendrick posted a first look at her new Christmas movie Noel on her Instagram. Star Wars The Last Jedi released a new 45-second teaser trailer online. All right, so that's it for this week's news segment. There's always so much news that drops all week long. We can't possibly get to it all in this show, which is once a week. If anything popped off that you had a question about or you'd like my opinion on, go ahead and throw it in the comments below. Also, if there was anything that jumped off and you were like, this is super dope, share it with us in the comments section and let's keep the movie conversations going all week long. All right, we're gonna go ahead and roll now into the movie review segment. I was able to get out to the theaters to see Thor Ragnarok, and I'll go ahead and give you my thoughts on that next. So let's go ahead and roll to the movie reviews right now. Ragnarok is the end of all things. It's death, it's destruction, it's the finale. Now add Thor, Loki, Valkyrie, Odin, Hulk, Doctor Strange, the Grand Master, Surtur, the Fire Demon, Hela, the Goddess of Death, and an abundance of humor, and now we have Thor Ragnarok. Does this third film in the Thor trilogy live up to the Marvel brand name, or do we need to send this film off to Valhalla? Let's dive in and take a look in this review. First, Taika Waititi was a special touch for this Marvel stable of films. Being known for his dry and sometimes literal style of comedy, we are presented with laughs from almost start to finish. And I knew walking into the theater that I was going to be getting a lot of laughs in this film because I knew that they would be sprinkled throughout, similar to his other movies that he's done, and I was not disappointed. However, there were a few moments where I thought the jokes could have been pulled and we could have let the dramatic moment continue to rise. Similar to my issue with Doctor Strange, when we have this tension building up towards the end of the third act and then all of a sudden the cloak of levitation wipes something off of his face. I feel like there was a couple moments in this film in particular where we could have done without the laughs and just continue to let the tension build and crescendo. For example, when Bruce Banner jumps off of the jet to transform into Hulk to be the hero, we didn't need the slapstick comedy that we're presented with upon his landing. Additionally, when Thor is talking to Valkyrie about what it means to be a hero, and then he gets hit in the head with the bouncy ball, we could have done without that too. Overall though, I was mostly pleased with the humor from start to finish. The pacing of this movie was a huge surprise for me as well. I knew going into the movie that they were going to be covering a lot of story. I just didn't realize how much story they were going to try and cover and how well they did it and how quickly they did it. This movie addresses where did Hulk go after Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie covers why Thor wasn't in Captain America Civil War. Also, we get to find out what's been going on with Loki and Odin. The amount of backstory that this film actually gives us was impressive. They didn't need to. They could have just done one or two lines to move things forward, but they invested the time to give us a little bit more, and for that, I was happy. Also, we get a brief cameo with Doctor Strange, which was fun, but almost completely unnecessary. The brief moment we get to see Doctor Strange in action, we learn that he's still been continuing his education and his studies in magic, and he does prefer to be called a master of the mystic arts more than a wizard. However, outside of one mention about what Odin has been doing and why he chose exile and why he chose isolation for the remainder of his days, there really isn't much point to the entire sequence that we see Doctor Strange in. They could have actually gotten us that information without it, but as a Doctor Strange fan, I'm glad they kept it. The big reveal in this film was actually the continued saga of secrets that Odin has been keeping from those closest to him throughout all of the films. In this third film, we find out that the oldest is not Thor. Odin actually had a daughter who is the rightful heir to the throne, and the daughter's name is Hela, and Hela is the goddess of death. Her character was also so deliciously evil and determined for all the right reasons. So yes, she is the goddess of death, but she is also the rightful heir to the throne of Asgard, and as such, she has come back to claim her throne and to exact revenge on those who have locked her up. Cate Blanchett's performance is easily in the top 5 villains in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you question her position in the top 5, I question your taste in movies. This film ends and concludes the trilogy showing that at the end of the day, brotherhood matters. In all, these films are about Thor and Loki and the relationship they have as brothers. That is the heart of these stories. For better or for worse, Thor and Loki are brothers, and that makes for great storytelling. In the first film, Kenneth Branagh did such a fantastic job establishing this almost Shakespearean-like relationship in the House of Odin. And this film continues to build on that beautifully, leading us all the way up to Avengers Infinity War. The short speech that Odin gives his two sons right before heading off to Valhalla shows the heart of a father who sees what his two sons are, what they've become, and what they can still achieve together. And it's this relationship of brother to brother that ultimately saves the day by the end of the film. While Odin may have a lot of secrets, the best kept secret is why he chose isolation and why he was ready for Ragnarok. Once Thor realizes his father's plan, it all makes sense and we get the conclusion of the film. I loved it. Now, this is not my favorite of the Marvel films, and it is definitely not my least favorite. This film takes us on a colorful, adrenaline-fueled, science fiction adventure full of laughs, some adult and crude humor laughs, but full of laughs nonetheless, with the continued theme of brotherhood. And to conclude the trilogy, we finally get to see Thor accept the leadership responsibility and become the king of Asgard, even if it's in an unconventional way. And this Thor Ragnarok review would not be complete if I didn't at least mention Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master. His performance was hypnotizing. His delivery of the lines, his mannerisms, the persona he takes on, and even just his swagger from start to finish as soon as we see him. Even his holographic imagery that he uses throughout the planet of Sakaar was just non-stop entertainment. Also, it's great to see this in surround sound, to actually hear Jeff Goldblum hit those high notes and sing, "It's my birthday!" I almost fell out of my seat laughing when that scene hits. You'll know it when you see it, and more when you hear it. Because of Jeff Goldblum's performance, I really do hope deep down inside my little nerd heart that we get to see him and Benicio del Toro share some screen time in the next Avengers movie or any other movie that they may be part of. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, perhaps? Finally, this film has 2 end credit scenes. The first one does not happen right away. It's mid-credits, and then the last one happens after all of the credits. So you will have to stay all the way through till that final credit rolls to get that second end credit scene. Thor Ragnarok is playing at your local theater right now, and I definitely recommend you check this film out. Because of some of the humor and the language, I can't give it both high fives, because the first words out of my mouth when I saw my brother, I don't think you're gonna be able to take the kids to see this one. Outside of some of the adult language, which this film may have the most adult language of any Marvel film to date, I really enjoyed this film, and I had so many laughs and so much fun in the theater, along with everybody I saw this film with. So Thor Ragnarok is in theaters right now. Check it out, and you're getting at least one high five from this guy. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what movies are arriving in theaters this week. Daddy's Home 2, Murder on the Orient Express, My Friend Dahmer. All right, on top of the movies that are still out that I want to see out of these, I'd have to say Daddy's Home 2. And then also I'm very excited about Murder on the Orient Express. The cast in it looks incredible, and I'm a big fan of Kenneth Branagh when he directs films. So I am very excited about Murder on the Orient Express. My Friend Dahmer, I'm not too familiar with, but I have been hearing some buzz online that it's been getting pretty good press. So if you've already seen it and you want to comment on it, go ahead and throw those thoughts below. But out of these 3 right now, I'm definitely the most excited for Murder on the Orient Express. All right, let's take a look at what's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray for your home theater. This week, Cars 3, The Glass Castle, Your Name, Ingrid Goes West, Patty Cakes, Westworld Season 1. Now, if you're interested, I've already seen Ingrid Goes West, and I did the review on that. Previous episodes, I'm sure you heard me because I was waiting because it was limited release for so long, and then it finally dropped in theaters. So I went and checked that out. It's a very disturbing movie about the impact of social media, etc. So if you're into like dramatic, dark pieces, you may want to check that out. I'm going to go ahead and throw the link up here so you can go ahead and check out my review for that movie in particular. And then as far as the other films go, you may not be familiar with Your Name, but if you've been watching this show, on a previous episode, we talked about how J.J. Abrams is actually going to be taking that animated film that's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray and turning it into a live action. So you may just want to check it out just so you have a heads up, because I know that's what I want to do. So you might just want to check it out so you have a heads up on what this story is and why J.J. Abrams saw it and went, yeah, this definitely needs to be live action. And then you saw Westworld on there. Now, that clearly TV, but we still enjoy TV on this show. We just don't talk about it that often. And I loved the first season of Westworld. A friend of mine and I was over at her house every week because we were just on HBO, just like, all right, let's see what this week brought. We were addicted to this show. Such a fantastic look, just at like a science fiction meets Western with the philosophy of life and what life could be like without limitation. Just a very good show overall, very well written. It does get very graphic and dark at times, but overall from start to finish, from episode 1 all the way through the end, just it was a knock out of the park, home run, and I can't wait for season 2. So if you haven't seen Westworld Season 1 yet, now would be a great time to look at picking this up on DVD and Blu-ray so you can check it out before Season 2 starts dropping on HBO. All right, and now we hit that time of the show for one of my favorite segments, and that is Certified Rad. Now on Certified Rad, we did miss it last week because of the move, trying to get everything set up in the new studio, so I didn't have time to do the research. But then we're back this week, and we had some really big news drop as far as music and entertainment goes that caught me off guard. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that wasn't a thing yet. So when I got the news that it was, I was like, that's definitely rad. We're talking about that this week. So on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, if you've ever been to Hollywood, if you've ever Googled Hollywood Walk of Fame, you know that all over the sidewalks are stars with different entertainers' names and an icon that represents what they're famous for. So you may be something with acting, it may be something with speaking, like a microphone or a vocalist, or radio, because radio for the longest time was a very big means of entertainment for this country before television. So you never know what you're going to find. It's literally all of entertainment's best of the best has their star on the Walk of Fame, and it's still a big deal to this day. And so we finally got a star for Selena. Now you may be going, who's Selena? Now if that's your thought, that's okay. She unfortunately has not been with us for quite some time. She was killed back in 1995. Now collectively she's sold over 65 million records, and she has had a very big influence in music as well as within her culture. So you can see down below in the comments section the article for this, but Eva Longoria, an actress that I'm sure most of you are familiar with, she said that Selena has been an icon for Latinas everywhere since she started singing and coming up through the ranks for music and dancing. And I believe it, because all of my friends and everything who are big fans of her, they celebrate her all the time. Her dance moves, her singing, the way she dressed, the way she performed. She had a very big impact on the Latin community, so much so that Jennifer Lopez actually made a movie of her. Whether you like that movie or not, it speaks to the importance and the value that she had in the community. So for fans, and most importantly for her surviving family members, the Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame is a huge deal, and that is definitely certified rad. And that pretty much wraps up this week. Now, if you enjoyed any portion of this week's episode, please feel free to give me that thumbs up. I encourage it, and that way other people who like movie-related shows like this will be able to locate this channel, and that actually helps us grow the community of movie lovers and movie watchers. Also, if you haven't clicked subscribe, now would be a great time to do that so you don't miss any future content coming down the pipe later on with future episodes. And finally, down below, you'll see all the social media that Brunansky's vlog is on. So I recommend that you guys follow us all along there. As always, I try and give something different on each platform. That way you're following that platform for a reason. Why would you follow us on all of the platforms if everything I post is exactly the same? It makes no sense. You could just follow one and be okay. So I try and give you guys a little bit something different, spice it up just a little bit on each one so that there's a purpose for you following each one. So please do, after this video, go ahead or right now, just leave this running in the background and go ahead and hop over to those and just click that follow or that like button. And that way you can stay up to date with everything that we're doing here on this show. Now, before I sign off, I do want to say after the end credit, we're going to have a small segment where we take a look at Marvel movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because as you just saw, I did give you my Thor Ragnarok review. So we're pretty much caught up with all of the Marvel movies now. Now, next year, the year after, and the year after that, we've already got some films lined up for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we can be excited for. But I wanted to give you my breakdown of what I think the top movies are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming right after the end credits. And don't forget to leave your comments with your thoughts about the Marvel Cinematic Universe listing that I'm about to give, and also your favorite trilogy so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on another week of Brunansky's vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you on Facebook Live right after this video so we can talk Monday's box office and maybe one or two news stories that dropped this morning that we didn't have an opportunity to record for this week's show. All right, everybody, see you on Facebook Live. Check out this next segment about the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming up right now. All right, we have finally seen Thor Ragnarok, which means we can now take a look at my thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and rank them from best to least enjoyable, going all the way back to 2008 when Robert Downey Jr. gave us Tony Stark, Iron Man. And next year is Marvel Studios' 10-year anniversary. And what better way to celebrate a 10-year anniversary than the culmination of all of these movies and all of these stories in one film, Avengers Infinity War. So before we get into actually ranking the films, let's just go ahead and look at all of the films that Marvel has done so far. In fact, let's just go ahead and throw them up on this wall. So first, we have Iron Man back in 2008. Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, 2010. Thor, 2011. Captain America, the First Avenger, The Avengers, 2012. Iron Man 3, 2013. Thor the Dark World, Captain America Winter Soldier, 2014. Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, 2015. Ant-Man, Captain America Civil War, 2016. Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 2017. Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok. All right, let's take a look at all of these films on this wall. That's a lot of movies. Let's go ahead and rank them. Clear that wall. Here we go. Coming in dead last at number 17, the least enjoyable film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for this guy is Thor the Dark World. I'm not sure that Marvel knew what they wanted to achieve when they made this film, because there's weird comedy in it, the villain is wasted, and it's almost like you just go through the movie and then the movie's over. There's no real build or anything like that. And for that reason, it's number 17, dead last. Coming in at number 16, Iron Man 3. I know that there's a lot of people that really enjoyed this movie, and they actually enjoy it more than Iron Man 2. But for me personally, I was very disappointed in Iron Man 3. A, because I thought I was getting the Mandarin, and that big switch to me was not like a, oh my goodness, what a reveal. It was, what am I watching? Who's the villain then? And then when you find out that it's AIM, but it's not AIM, but it's AIM, it just didn't make sense to me. Also, this film shouldn't have been called Iron Man 3. This film should have been called The Tony Stark Story, Iron Man 3. This movie was not about Iron Man, it was about Tony and him trying to figure out how to be the hero without his Iron Man suit. And if I wanted to watch MacGyver, I would just watch MacGyver. Coming in at number 15, Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie was forever long, and it took forever to get to the ending. Also, why did we repeat the same thing with the villains? You stop one villain, and then all of the villains die. That was the end of Avengers. Why are we repeating it in the very next movie? It didn't make sense. And because they dropped an entire city out of the sky, this movie is coming in almost last at number 15. Coming in at number 14, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 2. I was over the moon about the sequel. I couldn't wait to get in to see it, and then the sequel let me down. The entire ending actually bothered me. I had to see it multiple times to make sure I wasn't missing plot points because I was so enthusiastic about seeing a sequel. The ending villain didn't make any sense. If you're a planet, what do you need an avatar for? Why don't you, as the planet, just consume the beings that are on your planet? Kind of what you were doing, but then all of a sudden you decided to be an avatar and it didn't make any sense. So for these reasons, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, number 14. Number 13, Iron Man 2. I know a lot of people had problems with Iron Man 2. I thought it was actually an enjoyable movie. It does get a little cheesy and campy, especially with Whiplash, but overall, I enjoyed what Mickey Rourke brought. I also enjoyed what Sam Rockwell brought. He was a very different version. He was much younger. He was more in the mix. He wasn't the older man from the comics. But Sam Rockwell is always great in every performance he gives, and I thought as Justin Hammer, he did a good job. But the movie does get a little cheesy by the end, but they did give us a little bit of a demon in a bottle storyline from the comics, which I did enjoy that little nod. So for me, Iron Man 2 wasn't a complete waste, but it definitely wasn't good enough to make the top 10. Iron Man 2, coming in at number 13. Coming in at number 12, Captain America, the First Avenger. Now this was like some brand new technology if memory serves, because they were actually taking a face and putting it on another body to make Steve look smaller, and then he got all buffed out once he became Captain America. That's great. But the story itself just kind of felt generic. I didn't really care too much about the hero or the villain. I did enjoy seeing the Red Skull on screen. The makeup on it looked great. And also Hugo Weaving is always great, especially if he's got to play a villain. So for this reason, we're getting close to the top 10, but Captain America: The First Avenger didn't knock it out of the park enough to make the top 10. Captain America: The First Avenger coming in at number 12. Coming in at number 11, The Incredible Hulk. This movie doesn't even really feel like it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Part of that could be due to the fact that Bruce Banner was switched from Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo. And while both of them did give great performances, and Mark Ruffalo continues to give great performances, this film kind of stands apart and feels like the odd man out of the entire franchise. However, the story in it and the way they delivered it was more enjoyable than everything that's below it in this list. And for that reason, The Incredible Hulk is coming in at number 11. All right, let's go ahead and get into the films that I think are the top 10 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Starting with number 10, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Spider-Man: Homecoming's big issue for me was just the timeline, because it jumps around because we're not quite sure, because it's happening with Captain America: Civil War, but it's not. There's stuff that happens before, there's stuff that happens after. It was kind of choppy in how they told the story as far as the timeline was concerned. But overall, I thought that this was a great version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man combined, because my biggest gripe with the other two Spider-Man films was that we either got a great Peter or we got a great Spider-Man, but they didn't really mesh. They didn't give us both characters. And I feel like this version is a great mixture of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. This film really explored the heart of a hero, and for that, Spider-Man: Homecoming made the top 10 at number 10. Coming in at number 9, you just heard the review for it. That's right, Thor Ragnarok. Now, this film was a great, fun time at the theater. The story is very fast-paced, and we get to cover a lot of ground that we missed because they didn't really explore where Thor has been in any of the other movies for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thor Ragnarok does a great job of catching us up, and it also course corrects one major plot point with regard to the Infinity Gauntlet that Thanos has in an after-credits sequence. Now, while I was only able to give this film one high five because some of the crude humor in it does lean itself more towards an adult audience, or at least an older teenage audience, it's still going to make the top 10 because overall, across the board, I had a great time in the theater with this film. Even though some things in it did fall a little bit flat for me, overall, I really enjoyed it. And for that reason, Thor Ragnarok made the top 10 at number 9. Coming in at number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 1. This film was such a surprise for me. I did not expect Star Wars meets Indiana Jones. This was a great treasure hunting in space, meets pirates, meets gamblers and gangsters and everything else. It showed us some of the worst that's out there in space that the Guardians have to deal with. And they did a great job telling this story. So for that reason, it did make the number 10, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is coming in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, Ant-Man. When you say that Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas are going to be going toe-to-toe with each other as both versions of Ant-Man, you had my interest immediately. Then you add a cast with Michael Pena and also Corey Stoll, and you have just a phenomenal setup. I had so much fun in Ant-Man. This was just a great heist movie with a lot of really cool special effects. This blew Honey, I Shrunk the Kids out of the water, but other than that, it told a great story about fathers who care for their children. And we see that in both Michael Douglas's performance and Paul Rudd's performance in this movie. And because it had so much heart, so much humor, and also it had great special effects for a heist movie, this made the top 10, and it's coming in at number 7, Ant-Man. Coming in at number 6, Captain America: Civil War. Now, I know folks are probably surprised that this film is coming in so low in the top 10, coming in at number 6, not even breaking the top 5. But Captain America: Civil War was a very complicated story that they did a really good job telling. There was a lot of things that they had to mix into this. The introduction of Spider-Man, the introduction of Black Panther, these new characters integrating Ant-Man into everything. There was a lot that had to go into this story, and they did a great job doing it. But this did not feel like a Captain America movie. It felt like an addition to an Avengers film. So because it doesn't stand on its own as a great Captain America film, I did have to drop it down a few points in the ranking. So it is coming in the top 10, but it's definitely not making the top 5. Coming in at number 6, Captain America: Civil War. All right, let's get into the top 5 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Coming in at number 5, the one that started it all, Iron Man. I had such a good time in this film. When I walked out of the theater, I was like, holy cow, Robert Downey Jr. is back. Jon Favreau was great. This film really was A true origin story. It introduced us to a character that most people were not familiar with, and it did a great job doing that. It gave us who he is as a person, who he was after he was captured and escaped. This was just a great character piece about a guy who came from everything, fell to nothing, and then rebuilt himself once he found out he was betrayed. And because of all of that, this is making the top 5, and Iron Man comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, The Avengers. I was like a kid on Christmas when I went to see this film, and the Avengers did a great job overall. From the villains, to the story, to introducing us to new characters, to creating brand new characters that weren't even in the comics yet. They did a great job with the Avengers. Seeing all of them on screen with today's special effects team and all of the visual artistry that went into this was incredible. The music and the score was incredible. Watching Hawkeye shoot arrows as he's falling off of a building, seeing the Hulk smash, following Captain America, watching what happens with Iron Man sacrificing his life at the very end to save the day. Everything about the Avengers was done so well, and for that it made the top 5, and it's coming in at number 4, The Avengers. Coming in at number 3, my personal favorite Marvel hero, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is a character that goes through a literal existential crisis. He loses his identity and value of self. He was the world's best surgeon. He loses his hands and can no longer be that surgeon. So he goes through method after method, surgery after surgery of trying to heal his hands to get his identity back, all of which fail, and he realizes he's got one last shot, and it sends him on a completely different path and turns him into one of Marvel's greatest heroes of all time. This film did a great job actually capturing the spirit of that existential crisis. Benedict Cumberbatch, you could see it on his face as he was going through it. The conflict, the confusion, the frustration, it was all there. Chiwetel Ejiofor plays a great partner to that with Baron Mordo, who we actually get to see why he goes to the dark side and why he becomes the villain. We understand his motivations. And Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One knocked it out of the park. She stayed calm, determined, and you knew there was always something more going on than she was telling us by the way that you could just see it in her eyes. If you haven't seen Doctor Strange yet, I definitely recommend you check it out because this film came in the top 5 at number 3, Doctor Strange. Coming in at number 2, Thor. I love Thor. I thought Kenneth Branagh did a fantastic job with this film, and Thor was my favorite Marvel movie until the number 1 film, which you'll hear shortly, dropped in theaters. Everything about the story in the first Thor movie is so well written, and the characters deliver on everything so wonderfully, it's believable. Odin as the father, and then you have Thor and Loki as the brothers who are working together but aren't really working together. It's just such a great yin and yang story. It really makes the Shakespearean feel to the House of Odin. Everything about Thor I thought was great. There was a little hokiness in some of the action towards the end with the fight scenes, but we dismiss that because the story is so well written and so well delivered to us that Thor is coming in at number 2. Coming in at number 1 on this list, the most enjoyable film for me personally, Captain America, Winter Soldier. Marvel set out to do like a government spy thriller from the 1970s, and my goodness, did they knock it out of the park. This was a grand slam. The drama in it between two characters who are best friends, but the struggle that one goes through to revive the other, to remind him that this is who you are, you're not who they say you are, to redeem himself, and to have his best friend have his back to help him redeem himself, even though they're at conflict, was a truly epic story. Then you add all of the side characters coming in, like with Robert Redford. Sam Jackson continues as Nick Fury. Scarlett Johansson is the Black Widow. Everyone is playing together so well in this film, and it delivered on everything that it promised and more. The elevator fight scene, the view from the top looking down after Captain America has just completely taken out all of these special forces guys. The addition of Anthony Mackie as the Falcon. Everything about this was just so good from start to finish. The story, the characters, and the tension that builds from beginning to end. All right, everybody, that is my breakdown of the Marvel Cinematic Universe from number 17 all the way to number 1. Let's go ahead and throw up a quick page so we can see that countdown one more time. Coming in at number 17, Thor: The Dark World. Then Iron Man 3, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Iron Man 2, Captain America: The First Avenger, The Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, Captain America: Civil War, Iron Man, The Avengers, Doctor Strange, Thor, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. All right, and we don't have to stop there. We've got even more movies coming down the pipe that Marvel has already announced. So the wall's cleared. Let's go ahead and take a look at who's coming out next year in 2018. 2018 starts with Black Panther. Now, if you haven't seen this trailer, I definitely recommend you check it out. I will throw a link for it in the show notes below. After that, Avengers Infinity War, the culmination of 10 years of storytelling on the big screen, is happening next year at Avengers Infinity War. Ant-Man and the Wasp will conclude 2018, and it's dropping right after Avengers Infinity War. Is Avengers Infinity War going to have an impact on Ant-Man and the Wasp? We don't know, but as more news drops, stay tuned to this channel because we're going to be talking about it. 2019, we also have 3 more movies. Captain Marvel, which has been said to take place in the 1990s, which will be before even the first Iron Man film happened. The untitled Avengers movie. It was going to be a 2-parter, Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and 2, and they've changed it, but they haven't told us what Part 2 is going to be called yet. But we have something to look forward to with that Avengers movie. Finally, in 2019, Marvel and Sony are going to be releasing the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. We're still waiting on that title. Again, stay tuned to this channel because we're going to be talking about it when that news drops. And then in 2020, James Gunn is back to bring us Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. All right, everybody, that concludes the Marvel Cinematic Universe breakdown. If you agree, if you disagree, that's what the comments section for. Throw your thoughts down there, or better yet, throw your ranking for the top 17, the top 5, the top 10, whatever you feel. But let us know in the comments section and we can keep that conversation going all week long. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next Monday with a brand new episode of Brunansky's Vlog. Don't forget to hop over to Facebook right after this video because we're doing a Facebook live stream right now. Take care, everybody. See you on Facebook Live.